The UFC is in its final week of the season, and it goes down at UFC Tampa. In the main event, you got a banger, Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley. Let me say it again, Covington versus Buckley. That's right, Colby Covington is back, and it's unbelievable. I mean, usually Colby ducks fights like this, to be honest, and I'm a huge fan. But these are the fight he ducks. I mean, he's facing a true striker in Buckley. And, you know, Buckley's riding a wave of momentum, as we've seen. Uh, he finishes opponent after opponent. And Luque's just covering up right now. And how long can the ref let this go? They're not big, but he's not fighting back. Look at this. Look at this, Buck. Look at this, Buck. Come on, Buck. Come on, Buck. Stop. Yes. 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 Joaquin Buckley gets the KO, and he's officially a ranked fighter.
Ooh. And a big leg kick by Wonder Boy. Oh boy. It was partially blocked, but it still got through. Oh, a big right by Buckley. And that's it. Yes. Yes. Let's go. Joaquin Buckley with the big KO.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege.
Yeah, buddy, we made it to the final week of the season. The UFC will finish out this week at UFC Tampa. And we got a major dilemma because we got two fighters that we really enjoy. But the fact is, Colby Covington is still ranked on the dude list because of the potential, right? This guy has not lost a non-title fight in a long time, probably back to 2019 and even before that, right? Because he was on a win streak going into the Kamaru Usman fight. Then lost that, then beat Woodley, then came back and lost to Usman again. Got another chance against Leon Edwards, lost that, right? But in between those fights, he wins. The non-title fights, Colby Covington finds ways to win. So we're getting to that prediction in all the fights in the main card. So let's get locked in and let's get going. The first fight in the main card is Navajo Sterling versus Tuco Tokos. Let's get into it. In the light heavyweight division at UFC Tampa, you got Navajo Sterling making his UFC debut at 5-0, taking on Tuco Tokos. This is New Zealand versus England, by the way. Tokos is 10-4, so 5-0 versus 10-4. Let's jump into it. Both guys 6'4". Tokos, he's 34. Sterling young at 27. Sterling 3-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Sterling in just one fight at the Contender Series dominated with the KO win, landing 7 significant strikes per minute, but that's just one UFC fight. Tokos about 3.3 per minute, but Tokos has shown that he can land takedowns like 2 every 3 rounds. So Sterling beat Phil Latu by second round KO at the Contender Series. That's all we have, but he's coming in with a lot of hype. Tokos, 33% takedown defense. It shouldn't be a big deal in this one, or maybe it will be. We'll see. But so far, he's been subbed by Omar Sy, right? He's a good fighter. Sy didn't even land any strikes, just straight takedown and control. 2 takedowns in that fight to get the win over Tokos. Tokos also lost to Zhang Mingyang at Road to UFC. Zhang Mingyang is, shown to be a good fighter. He got KO'd by him. So 2 fights, 2 finishes for Tokos. So not a lot to go off of here, but Navajo Sterling's coming in with a lot of hype. The New Zealander looks good. He trains with some good fighters as well. So I think, this guy is just going to get better every time we see him. And this is a little bit of a test, but one he should pass pretty easily. I look for Navajo Sterling to get the win, and I'm thinking third round KO. I think Tokos will be around for a little while. Could be wrong about that part. We'll see. But I like Navajo Sterling to get the KO. But either way, he wins this thing to remain undefeated is 6-0. In my opinion, light heavyweight division, UFC, Tampa. So a quick and easy prediction to kick things off here in the main card. We got Navajo Sterling winning that one. And, I mean, both of these guys are big, man, 205 pounds. Navajo Sterling doesn't have a lot of fights under his belt, though. But he is 5-0, right? So there is a question mark there. Toko's 10-4. But Navajo Sterling is a 6.5 to 1 favorite for a reason. And we're not going against that, just to be honest. Now, the next one, you got Adrian Yanez versus Daniel Marcos. This fight goes down in the bantamweight division. Bangers up and down this card in the final week of the UFC season. And let's get into it, man, because I'm highly interested in this one. In the bantamweight division at UFC Tampa, you got Adrian Yanez. He's back 17-5. USA takes on the Peruvian Daniel Marcos, who's a perfect 16-0. So this is a big time fight. Both guys 5'7", both guys 31. Yanez 1-inch reach advantage, 70-69. Both guys stand right-handed. Both guys right around 6 significant strikes per minute. So high activity, high output on the feet, and neither guy's looking to get takedowns. They're almost zero in terms of the takedown average. So both guys pure strikers. Yanez coming off the win against Vinicius Salvador by KO, but he lost a pair of fights before that to Rob Font and Jonathan Martinez, both by KO. So he's lost 2 of the last 3. Marcos beat John Castaneda by decision, lost to Aori, or actually no contest against Aori Kalang, but he was dominating that fight. Before that, he beat Davey Grant, Simon Oliveira, and Brandon Lewis at the Contender Series. He's undefeated in a UFC setting, but very well could have won all 5 fights, but he did have that one no contest. So, well, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a tough fight. It's a big step up for Daniel Marcos. I can see why he's just barely a favorite, but I truly believe he's going to win this fight. But he is running into the mirror here in terms of a guy that's much like him and actually has a slight edge on the feet, but the numbers are very close because they're both around 6 significant strikes per minute. But I like Daniel Marcos to continue winning. It's hard to go against an undefeated guy at this level, especially when it's 16-0 and not like 8-0 or something like that. But let's be real, Adrian Yanez is no slouch. But I still think Daniel Marcos outpaces him in this one. Expect Yanez to get around and this thing to come down to the third round. I don't see either guy leading 2-0 after 2. But Daniel Marcos will outpace him to get the win here by decision and with the 17-0 bantamweight division, UFC Tampa. Yeah, and we're known to go against undefeated fighters like we did last week in Movsar Loev. Now, he got the win over Aljamain Sterling, but just because a guy's undefeated doesn't mean we're picking him. But this week we start off the card, the main card, that is, by taking 2 undefeated fighters in Navajo Sterling and Daniel Marcos. But this fight against Adrian Yanez is not going to be easy. I mean, Adrian Yanez is the real deal. He's been around for a while, and he's 17-5. And all his 5 losses are against, for the most part, legitimate opponents. Now, in the next fight, light heavyweight division, highly interesting. You got Vitor Petrino, who's coming off the loss to Anthony Smith, but he's still 11-1, taking on a guy in Dustin Jacoby that's 19-9. Right? No slouch, though, and he's got something to prove. I mean, Dustin Jacoby needs a win. 19-10 is not a good look. His back is against the wall. So really, you're going to get the best from both fighters in this one. In the light heavyweight division at UFC Tampa, you got Vitor Petrino coming in at 11-1. He's Brazilian, takes on Dustin Jacoby, the American, who comes in at 19-9. And the first thing that sticks out is the 9 losses for Jacoby. But let's get into it to see if he has any type of chance of winning this fight. He's 1 inch taller at 6'3". He's 36. So, he's getting up there in age. Petrino, 27. Still young, just entering the prime window. Petrino's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Now, in terms of activity, That leans towards Jacoby, who doubles up Petrino, 5.5 significant strikes per minute to 2.8 for Petrino. But you know what that means? Petrino has a takedown game where he lands well over one per round. Also has a 77% takedown defense. But he was subbed. He was submitted by Anthony Smith. Big win for him by guillotine in 2 minutes. So that really helped Anthony Smith, right? Beating an undefeated guy. Before that, he beat Tyson Pedro, Modestas Bukauskas by KO, Marcin Prachnio by submission, Rodolfo Bellato by KO. So, he's won a lot of fights in the lead up and should have beat Anthony Smith, but he couldn't get the job done. Now, Jacoby, 60% takedown defense. Although that's slightly below average, it's not going to be good in this fight for sure. He's coming off the loss to Dominic Reyes by KO, Alonzo Menafield by decision. Even though he outstruck Menafield, somehow he managed to lose that fight. He led 93-68, so that's not good. He did beat Kennedy Zachukwu by KO. So this one's simple for me. I mean, the takedown game of Vitor Petrino is legit. He's obviously not happy with the loss to Anthony Smith, so he's going to want to come back with a vengeance for sure. And I fully expect Vitor Petrino to get the job done in this one and win by decision or maybe early KO. We'll have to wait and see. I believe he does have the KO power, but he's got to be careful of Jacoby's KO power too, and likely need to take this fight right to the ground. But either way, he'll win this thing. He needs a win bad here. He was undefeated, got the loss to Anthony Smith, so look for him to come back here strong to move to 12-1 light heavyweight division, UFC Tampa. What makes this fight interesting is that both guys are capable of finishing the fight. They're capable and have KO power, which makes the prediction very difficult, right? Because one guy could be better than the other, but the other could end the fight at any time. So you got to be careful in this one if you're Vitor Petrino. But at 11-1, he should win this fight, and he wants to come back and get a victory, right? Not a good look losing to Anthony Smith, especially when you look at other fighters that Anthony Smith has lost to lately. If Vitor Petrino wants to get on another level, that's a fight that he's got to win. As we move up into the big three, we love the big three. 3-0 last week. We usually finish strong, even if it doesn't start well. As you saw at UFC 310 when we won 4 fights in a row to finish the night. And we were 4-6 at that point. So, the final 3, it's game on. And in this flyweight fight, you got Manel Kape, 19-7, taking on Bruno Silva. Not middleweight Bruno Silva, but flyweight Bruno Silva. Brazilian. He's 14-5, and this is going to be a high-level fight. Flyweight division, not always the most exciting, but it's going to be high level. So let's get into it right now. In the flyweight division at UFC Tampa, you got Manel Kape taking on Bruno Silva. Not middleweight Bruno Silva, but flyweight Bruno Silva. That's right, there's 2 of them. Now let's get into it. Kape, 19-7. The Brazilian Silva, 14-5. Now Manel Kape is 5'5", 1 inch taller than Bruno Silva at 5'4". He's 31, Silva 34. Both guys, Manel Kape's got a 68-inch reach, 3-inch reach advantage over Silva. He fights left-handed, Silva fights right-handed. Now, in terms of activity or significant strikes per minute, Manel Kape leads there, 4.4 to 3.3. So Manel Kape's going to be more active on the feet. You're looking at 10 to 15 significant strikes more throughout the fight. But the takedown game goes to Silva. He can land like 2 takedowns per 3 rounds. So look for him to get 2 in this fight. But Manel Kape has a 73% takedown defense. That's better than average. That should help him in this fight. Now he's coming off the loss to Muhammad Mokaev by decision. Weird fight too, just 30-20 in significant strikes. Mokaev had 3 takedowns and beat him. But before that, Manel Kape won 4 in a row. 2 KOs, 2 decisions. He had 2 decisions against Felipe dos Santos and David Dvorak, but not bad decisions. So against Mokaev, he landed just 20 significant strikes, right, in 3 rounds. But against Felipe dos Santos, 112. So you see it depends on which guy shows up and how good the takedowns are for Bruno Silva. Manel Kopp did KO Zumagulov and O'Day Osborne. Now, Bruno Silva, aka Bulldog, 60% takedown defense. He's, coming in on a 4-fight win streak over Cody Durden by KO. Tyson Nam, submission. Victor Rodriguez, KO. JP Baez, KO. Man, this guy is on a roll, just finishing people. But the problem here is that, Manel Kopp is better than people think. You look at coming into this fight, you would think that Bruno Silva might be the favorite, but no, Manel Kopp is a 3-1 favorite. Why? Because he has solid takedown defense and he can outstrike Bruno Silva. So it's going to be an interesting fight. It depends on which Manel Kopp shows up. I'm banking on the fact that we get the 112 significant strikes in 3 rounds, Manel Kopp, because if we get that, this fight is over. Now, Bruno Silva can stifle all that with the takedown game. But again, Manel Kopp, 73% takedown defense. So that's what I'm banking on here. I like Manel to edge out Bruno Silva, but I do think the fight's going to be closer than 3-1 odds would indicate. But yeah, I think Manel edges out Bruno Silva by decision, 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecards. That's my opinion. That's my pick. Manel Kopp will win and move to 20-7 here, flyweight division, UFC Tampa. All these fights are very difficult to predict. It's been that way for all of 2024. It's what's made it, that's what's made it the biggest year in UFC history. And it's been that way for like 5 or 6 years, really since 2016. And probably before that, it just gets better and better and better. And what happens is it gets tougher and tougher to predict fights. When you start going, it used to be when you go through the resume of the fighters, you can see some things here and there that like, okay, this guy's probably going to win. Now, when you go through the resume, it's very equal. Like both guys are riding win streaks, or both guys have lost 2 of the last 3, or 3 of the last 4, or won 4 of the last 5. Like the matchmakers are doing a phenomenal job of matching up guys that are very similar. And, someone's got to win and move up, and someone's going to lose and move down and might even be out of the UFC. But in this one, it's close, but we got Manel Kopp winning the fight. It's time for the co-main event, featherweight division. Cub Swanson, 29-14. Billy Q, aka Billy Quarantillo, 18-6. 2 tough guys, right? And the odds are very close in this one. Again, 2 guys kind of evenly matched. We got some things to figure out in this one. And again, one guy's moving up and one guy is moving down. So let's get into this prediction right now. In the featherweight division at UFC Tampa, you got Cub Swanson, 29-14. Wow. Taking on another guy that's a big veteran, Billy Quarantillo, 18-6. So both of these guys been around a while. Billy Q, a slight favorite in this one, but close. Billy Q, as he's known. 2-inch height advantage of 5'10". He's 35. Cub Swanson's 41. Oh, man. Both guys 70-inch reach. Both guys stand right-handed. Billy Q over 7 significant strikes per minute. That's incredible. Cub Swanson, no slouch in his own right, 4.7 per minute. Both guys land like 1 takedown every 3 rounds. Now, Swanson lost to Andre Fili by split decision last time out, gave up 2 takedowns, trailed 67-62. So he's slowing down a little bit, but he did beat Hakeem Dawadu. Interesting, by decision, even though he got dominated on the feet, 95-77. Lost to Jonathan Martinez by KO. So he's lost 2 of the last 3. Now, Billy Q, same situation. He lost to Yusuf Salal by submission and was KO'd by Edson Barboza. A tough fighter beat Damon Jackson, who recently looked like he retired. Right? Might be the reason why. Billy Q gave up 3 takedowns to none, but led 100-67 in significant strikes. And this is the way he's beating opponents. And I think it's going to be a tough fight because, Cub, he's not going to come in and just give it to you. He wants his 30th professional MMA victory. So Cub Swanson is going to come in with everything, but Billy Q, in my opinion, still wins. I think he's going to win rounds 1 and 3. I think Cub starts fast, but Billy Q finishes in round 1. Cub Swanson comes back in round 2, makes a fight of it, and then Billy Q closes the door in round 3. Could be 30-27 too by decision. but there'll be a couple 29-28s there if I had to guess. But either way, I think Billy Q wins unless there's like a surprising KO or something like that, which is always possible with Cub Swanson. But Billy Q wins, in my opinion, and with the 19-6 featherweight division, UFC Tampa. The fact is, you can never look past Cub Swanson. I mean, this guy's been a veteran of the game for a long time. And like I said, he's trying to get his 30th professional MMA win. So don't count him out. This is going to be a very close fight. It's likely going to go to a decision unless one of the two lands a big shot at some point, which is highly possible as well. That's why people always say, you got to say how the fight's going to finish. Yeah, and that's great and all. But to me, it's the win or the loss. Doesn't matter how it finishes. Because it's really hard to predict a KO versus not a KO. Or a submission versus not a submission and a decision. The bottom line is I look at all these fights like they're possibly going to a decision and who is more likely to win. That's the bottom line. And in this one, we got to go against Cub Swanson and take Billy Q. So let's get into the main event. And it's a big one. I mean, this is the last fight of 2024. And it seems like Colby Covington is one of those guys. It's always one of the last fights of the year. Sometimes he's in the pay-per-view fighting for the title. Sometimes he's in the fight night like this, like he was against Woodley. In a big fight in which if Colby loses, it's over. Right? If Colby Covington loses his fight, it's over. It's a wrap. He's got to keep winning to get back in title contention. And this time he's going to have to win 2 or 3. And by that time, he's going to be up there in age, right? I mean, he's not getting any younger. Colby Covington, for him, the time is now. He's 36 years old. He had a chance in his prime, 32, 33, against Usman to win the belt. Couldn't do it. Lost to Usman a second time. Lost to Leon Edwards. Right? The first Usman fight went 5 rounds, and he lost in the final minute. The second one went 5 rounds in a fight that I thought he won, but the judges gave it to Usman. And then against Bilal Muhammad, he just got dominated. But he didn't look himself. I was really upset in that fight at the end until I found out later that he was injured. Now, Colby Covington comes into a fight where he's actually the underdog. Buckley is nearly a 3-1 favorite. It's unbelievable. And we like both of these guys tremendously. So, last fight of the year, I just want to see a great fight. But the bottom line is, we got to make a prediction, right? So let's dive into this fight, full scale, full prediction. Let's get into it right now.
In the welterweight division at UFC Tampa, your main event, last fight of the year, you got Colby Covington taking on Joaquin Buckley. And this is going to be a highly interesting fight because Buckley is surging. Covington 17-4, Buckley 20-6. Colby 1 inch taller, 5'11". He's 36. Buckley 30 years old. Buckley has a 4-inch reach advantage, believe it or not. He fights southpaw or left-handed. Covington fights right-handed. On the feet, they're almost even. Both guys hovering right around 4 significant strikes per minute, and that's an average, or a legit average, because they have several fights in the UFC, obviously. Colby's better on the ground, landing over a takedown per round. Buckley gets like 2 every 3. So takedown defense will be important here. 67% for Colby, 69% for Buckley. So very even matchup here. Colby lost to Leon Edwards by decision. Didn't look great in that fight. Both guys had 2 takedowns, got beat on the feet 57-44. But word is he had an injury during the fight. So it's been, just shy of a year. 2 days shy of 1 year since Colby last fought. Before that, he beat Jorge Masvidal in dominant fashion. 6 takedowns to none by decision. Lost to Usman, giving up a takedown, didn't have any, because Usman has great takedown defense. Now, Buckley is on a roll. This guy's won 5 straight fights over Andre Fialho, Alex Morono, Vicente Luque, Nursultan Ruziboev, and Stephen Thompson, whom he KO'd. He also KO'd Vicente Luque. So this guy is on a roll, but you run into a tough fighter in Colby Covington, and these are 2 guys that I highly respect and highly like. So very difficult prediction, but I gotta believe Colby Covington still has something left in the tank. I'm not saying Buckley can't win. He certainly can. But Colby has been in these situations. Yeah, he's 36, but he's not really slowing down just yet. So I believe Colby is going to outclass Joaquin Buckley in this fight and probably win a close fight 3 rounds to 2 by decision. With takedowns, the significant strikes will be close. They'll be battling back and forth, but Colby will be able to take down Joaquin Buckley and really control him against the fence. And people don't like to see that, but that's what, Colby does. He's like an old school football team that just runs the ball. You can't stop it. And he grinds the clock down and he gets the W in every fight that's not a championship fight. So I expect him to win again and move to 18-4 here, welterweight division, UFC Tampa.
Yeah, so he's not always exciting like a football team that spreads the field, throws the ball around the park, may not play great defense, but they're going to win 40-30 almost every week. And it's exciting to watch him play. Instead, like I said, Covington's like the old school team that runs the football. You can't stop it. They might win 17-14, but he finds a way to win. And again, the fans don't like it, right? Because he's gonna lean you up against the fence. He's gonna apply pressure. He's gonna land takedowns at times. Not necessarily likely to finish the fight, but he's the safe bet because he just finds ways to win. Hasn't been able to get the job done in a title fight. I mean, this guy, Colby Covington, could be just like Dan Marino. And I'm a huge Dolphins fan, right? One of the best quarterbacks of all time, but didn't win the Super Bowl. Colby Covington's one of the best fighters of all time. Please believe it. Not the best, but he's up there, right? He's up there. But if he doesn't win this fight, his career is going to end without winning a title, without winning the undisputed welterweight title. And I really think that Colby's got something left in the tank. But Bilal Muhammad broke him down, man. Or excuse me, Leon Edwards broke him down. And Leon Edwards eventually fell to Bilal. Bilal broke him down. But to me, of Leon Edwards, Usman, and Bilal is the best matchup for Colby because Bilal plays right into his hands. Not to say that Colby would beat him, but he wants to get you up against the fence too. He wants to control you, and Colby's good in those situations. He's not good in the situations where he's forced to strike because his opponent has good takedown defense. That's why Usman was a tough fight. Leon Edwards was a tough fight because Leon Edwards is hard to take down. Now, Bilal had his way with him, but those are just tough fights for Colby. Bilal is a fighter that Colby could potentially beat or at least make a great fight of it. So he's desperately trying to continue winning. Now, if Shavkat beats Bilal, I don't think Colby ever wins a title. And that's what's going to happen first. If Shavkat and Bilal are going to fight, if Colby can win this fight and maybe one more, he'll get a title fight. But if it's against Shavkat, I don't see him winning that one against Bilal. I say it's 40-60 Bilal, but Colby would have a shot in that fight. But listen, the time is running out for Colby Covington. This is a must-win fight. And the next one after that is a must-win. And then the UFC will give him another title opportunity. Because, a lot of people don't like Colby Covington, but if he keeps winning and he's at the top, doesn't matter if he's beating Tyrone Woodley or whoever else he's got to beat. If he keeps winning and he's still at the top, it's hard to deny a guy a title fight, especially now if he wins 2 in a row. And credit Colby for taking this fight because he's the underdog. But he knows he's got to fight. He can't sit out the entire year almost and not fight. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a highly interesting and great fight. Both guys, especially Joaquin, capable of finishing the fight at any time. So Colby's got to be careful. And what he's going to do is just grind out a victory here and just control the heck out of Buckley. Now, if Buckley can defend that, then you never know. I mean, Buckley wants to keep separation and keep the fight standing and be active, and Colby wants to shut that down with great defense and apply pressure with the takedown game, with clinch control against the fence, all that, and he's very capable of doing that. So that's the way it looks. Last fight of the year, and it's a big one. So that's what we got. That's the main card. There's some other good fights in the undercard, like your prelim main event, Michael Johnson versus And Azater. That's a lightweight fight. That's going to be good. Joe Alvarez versus Drakkar Close. That's a pretty even fight, even though Alvarez is a slight favorite. But Alvarez is 21-3, Close is 15-2. You got Sean Woodson versus Fernando Padilla. Miles Johns is on the card. Miranda Maverick versus Jamie Lynn Hort. Davey Grant versus Ramon Tavares. So it's just going to be a good night. There's 13 fights. You had 14 at UFC 310. You got 13 at UFC Tampa. So 27 total fights to end the year. And we wouldn't have it any other way. We would not have it any other way. So that's the way it looks. For now, this is your boy Chris Cross. Hope you have a great day. And God bless. As always, peace.